Oh man, and just like that, we are back. What is going on, everybody? If you don't know, now you do know. You're officially tuned in to a very special edition of the HFWB podcast series. This is your host, Clifton Pope, and with me today, I have a very special woman, and it's who I'm about to bring on here in just a moment. But like I always say, it always pays off on who you know, who you're connected to, because you never know when you could create full circle moments down the road in life. This woman who I'm about to bring on, she's been a very special friend since I met her in Washington, D.C. at the United States Black Chambers of Commerce National Convention back in Washington, D.C. in 2023. And of course, fast forward, we've been trying to connect as far as putting stuff together. I've been trying to get her on my podcast for about a little over 6 months, but timing is everything. But as far as who I'm about to bring on, she's basically a former digital media consultant, a serial entrepreneur, and a former journalist. She's run for public office in the past, served on plenty of civic association boards, participated in NAMI programs in Washington, Montgomery County, Maryland, Delaware State Chapter, just to name a few. She's also received an award for a radio series exploring children's mental health from the Society of Professional Journalists. And it all goes back to her experience as, most importantly, a mom for her own children who basically grew into adults with mental illnesses that kind of motivated her to create her current nonprofit that she has called Holistic Homes, which she'll definitely break down how that came together without a doubt. If you have no idea who I'm talking about by now, please welcome the lovely Miss Lisa Bass Cooper to the HFWB podcast series. Lisa, this has been long overdue, quite some time. How is it going so far?
It's great, Clifton. Thank you so much for having me on this podcast and for all that you're doing. That's amazing. One clarification I just want to say, it's Bass, Lisa Bass Cooper. And
With that
as
being
a
said,
former
please
broadcaster, I had to say that, right? I had to do
Yes. With that
Okay.
being said, as a correction, please welcome Miss Lisa Bass Cooper to the HFWB podcast series. But yes, I appreciate the clarification. That way we're always on the same page as we
Right.
continue to be since when we met each other back in Washington, D.C., without a doubt. So tell me, Lisa, for those who are currently listening to the HFWB podcast series and wants to know, how is it like being of course, from going from a former reporter, from going to a digital media consultant, entrepreneur, all the things that you've done in the past to where you are currently now for developmental director, for Holistic Homes?
Well, I think that, the crux of it, you talk about all the background that you talked about. At the end
Yes.
of the day, all of us at our core make a decision about whether we're going to be givers and takers in
Right,
the
right.
world. And so it shapes the professions we pursue, the careers we pursue. And so I have, like you, I am a giver and I leverage my creative sense, right? My
Right.
creative talents, like you're exercising your creative talents, right? But
Uh-huh.
at the end of the day, all of us really are doing the same thing. We're giving.
Yes.
We're giving. People talk about giving back. It's a forward action. Giving is a forward action, right? And
Right.
so that's the journey I'm on now. It's just giving in a different way than what I had given before, as you cited, based upon my personal experiences. So I just want to focus on that I'm no different from anyone else who's a giver. And in addition to that, I've just put some form around that giving, right? How do I want to give, and who do I want to give to, and who do I want to surround myself with
Right.
in order to give, right?
Yes.
Um, and so I'm just going to start with that and leave it open to you to guide the conversation.
No, I love how we're starting off as far as from a giving perspective, because it's like it kind of speaks to your overall generosity, so to speak, Lisa. I mean, you're right. We are giving like a certain skill, a certain gift, a certain talent that only we have within ourselves, to where we feel like we hope that it can make our community that we live in a better place, and at the same time our world a better place. And it's kind of like we're dealing with kind of like the law of compensation to a certain degree. You get out whatever you put in. If you put out good in the world, you'll get back good in the world. And versus you put out bad in the world, obviously bad things will happen to you. It's kind of like, again, a give or take thing that you were kind of referring to. Where does that drive as far as just wanting to give based off of your overall skills, your overall gifts, your overall talents, and just your overall experience as far as the background that you've come at that has put you in the position to where it's like, okay, I want to give away as much information and as much resource as possible to help people better themselves from a mental health perspective?
I think that it came at a lot of levels. I mean, in some ways, I think I've always been interested in that and curious about mental health, even before my children were even thought about or born.
Right,
The award that you mentioned, I didn't have, I pursued because I was just interested in that topic. I was covering Capitol Hill,
right.
and I was covering, everything from nuclear war to missiles and, Russia aggression. We still have that,
You're
45
just doing
years
your
later,
job, just
like,
putting the
right?
information
Some
out there.
things never change,
Yeah,
right? But I was looking for things to uncover that other journalists perhaps had not, and I found a Congressional Budget Office report on children's mental health, and
okay.
they had done some good work on certain signs in children, and I took that report and then applied it in Washington, D.C., where I worked. I worked for Howard University Radio, and I applied that in the judicial system, and I talked to social workers, and I talked to people in the judicial system. I talked to educators, and I visited schools where there were children that had already shown at an early age mental health signs of mental health issues that people were grappling with. And so that introduction to mental health was, I think, the foundation for me having that curiosity. And then as I continued in my career, I also watched and listened to the work of other colleagues. Bruce Johnson was a reporter. He's the late Bruce Johnson now, but Bruce was an excellent reporter in Washington. And I think around the 80s, 1980s, he
Okay.
did a series about the whole legislation that brought people out of institutions. And that's when we started to see homelessness really balloon across major urban centers all over the country. And Bruce took a look at what it looked like in Washington, but he gave that backstory. There's also another journalist, Peter Early, who wrote a book called Crazy, that also is an excellent read on just what happened in this country around mental illness, and particularly the deinstitutionalization of people who have mental health conditions, right?
Yes.
And what we've done when it comes to Black and Brown communities, we've just reinstitutionalized a lot of those folk in the prison system, right? Because there's not been an avenue for dealing with those issues that come from and the behavioral manifestations of mental illness when a person is in crisis. And so that does lead some and many to our penal institutions. And it's increased. The research I've been seeing over the last 20, 30 years, and went from a quarter of the population could be traced to people who were untreated for mental illness to now 40% of the population. And
Wow.
yeah, it's huge, right?
It
And
is.
so, I mean, sometimes it's a wonder that I see a Black man on the street. I want to say, whoa, you're out. Great for you. Because when you look at the numbers, it's astounding.
I
right?
was going to ask you as we're going into this conversation, why do you feel like in the Black and Brown community there is such a staggering number of mental illnesses and disorders rising within our community? I mean, it could be for a lot of reasons. It could be because of depression. It could be because of anxiety. It could be because of like maybe post-traumatic stress disorder from their time in the military. What do you feel like is the common ingredient that keeps the Black and Brown community so attached to all of these mental illnesses based on the research you have shown or you've studied, I should say?
I mean, again, I'm not an authority, right? I'm not a
Yeah,
PhD on this. I
of
can only
course.
tell you based on sort of a reporter's perspective, right? And just looking at different materials. Um, and I think, and let me say this, I think that more work, scientific work, scholarly work
Hmm.
needs to be done around this issue to answer the question that you have.
Oh yeah.
But there's no question about that. But that said, I would say that there are a couple of variables in the last, I want to say, 15 years that have changed that I think that our communities need to pay attention to. One is the brain and the development of the brain, based
Mm,
again upon my reading, in adolescence
mm.
and the factors that impact those of us who are in stressful living situations
Oh
as
yes.
the brain's developing, right?
Mm.
And yes, there's a legacy from slavery from this, right?
Oh yeah.
But it's bigger. I won't say it's bigger than that. I'm saying slavery is a factor that runs through certainly Black folks' history and mental illness, but also with the Hispanic, the brown population,
Yep.
they've got some traumas that are causing them to come over the border, right?
Oh yeah.
They've got traumas that those who've been here for generations, they still have traumas as well. Um, some of them, and some of them do not. But there are a number of factors that go into diagnosing people with mental illnesses. There are a number of factors that are unknown because there are so many factors, as you pointed out, you know,
Hmm.
PTSD, chemicals, environmental issues,
Oh yeah.
diet, um, a trauma, family trauma, and that's particularly where I think Black and Brown communities and families are affected when you talk about the family structure, that system, the economic systems, right? Legal economic systems that have, for lack of a better term, deprived or impeded, right, the healthy progress,
Hmm.
right, of families,
Yep.
and has not contributed to their health, their mind, body health, and wellness, which is why we're at the point we are now, trying to restore that,
Mm.
recognizing it, and now trying to restore it,
Right.
right? Um, and so I think that those are the factors, and for those reasons, I just think that we need to, and I'm seeing movement slowly, not just holistic homes, but I'm seeing other Black organizations in particular beginning to say we need to step up to this issue. And it's at the, and what's interesting is it's at the grassroots level where we are, Clifton.
There's so much more room for improvement and so much more room for growth. And it's like you touched on something very interesting as far as, the development of the brain as far as from the adolescence level, because I remember having a conversation with a good friend of mine who's a realtor, and it was her and her friend. We had like a breakfast one time, and I remember her saying specifically, it's important to institutionalize change when kids are within that adolescent stage, because you cut the timeline of implementing like a system of institutionalization from 10 years down to 5 years if you start at the adolescence level. And when she said that, that literally sparked like a fire within me more than ever to kind of focus primarily like on like the fifth grade level going into like high school, because that's when they're getting that sense of individualism developed within themselves.
Mhm.
Yes, they're still attached to mom and dad, but at the same time, they're being separated from mom and dad, and they're standing as their own third individual right next to mom and next to dad. So it's funny how you touched on that primarily, because you have to start at that adolescent stage while the brain is still developing. That way you could institutionalize any kind of change and basically change the future for the better. That's why it's like we got to focus on the youth more than anything. And it's like we don't want them to end up as far as suffering from like all these mental illnesses to when now they're even having trouble dealing with like opportunities to like live in homes after being released from hospitals because of all these mental illnesses. And
Right.
it's kind of a good transition, because you mentioned that Holistic Homes is up for the fight and ready to, of course, bring, of course, awareness and attention to this. So it leads me to ask you, what is kind of like the origin story behind Holistic Homes? What is the overall mission of Holistic Homes? And what is basically going to be brought to the table to where people can basically benefit off of it?
Well, let me just say that Holistic Homes really started from research that I was doing around helping Black and Brown communities to, just move forward, to deal with homelessness and housing issues and just caring for my community, which is something I've always done.
Right.
And I realized that when I started to look at housing and mental health, that there really were differences in the number of housing first supportive housing programs that had been started by Black people.
Mm.
When I looked at the two counties in, let's say, the metropolitan DC area,
Right.
there were not substantive economic differences between the predominantly Caucasian county of Montgomery County and the predominantly, at that time, African American community of Prince George's County, which at one time was the wealthiest Black county in the country. Right?
Mm.
It's now moved to Charles County, but it was the wealthiest one. And I said, well, why are there so many more permanent housing programs in Montgomery County than in Prince George's County? And so when I started to do the research, it didn't say that we weren't involved in Montgomery County. We were, but who was leading those organizations?
Mm.
It was not people that looked like us. And so I really started this effort by having the attitude of saying, well, if they can do it, we can do it.
Oh man, it's funny how you say that.
And maybe that's a bad attitude, reason for doing, we're starting an organization. But I guess if it's a bad reason, I guess I'll find out soon, because we're still moving forward so far, but we still have a ways to go. But that was my reasoning. I said, my community is rich. We have resources. We are smart. We persevere. We solve our problems. And historically, we have solved our problems.
Oh, yeah.
That's what made me say, I'm going to take this bull by the horn, and I'm going to find people who will support me. And thank you for being one of them.
No, I love the mission, and it's like, I wouldn't say it's bad reasoning, Lisa. I would say it's more good trouble, if anything, as far as voicing your concern and basically now building a 501c3 nonprofit organization based off of you voicing your concern, and just getting the awareness out there that something needs to be done. And it's like you said, I mean, if they can do it, so can we. And I'll even add a little twist to it and take it a step above. It's like, hey, if I can do it, so can you. And at the same time, anything that they think that they're doing is making a difference, I can do it better and make a greater and a more impactful difference. And
Right.
I feel like that is what Holistic Homes is on the way to doing, without a doubt, because like you said, you're in the grassroots stages. So it's like there's so much more room for growth and so much more room for potential. That's why I love the concept of it. And I was going through as far as all the programs that it offers. I mean, you have things like nutrition counseling for like weight management programs. I saw you mentioned, of course, about the AI conversations. You're utilizing AI to help develop apps for unique individual experiences in like yoga and meditation. There's art therapy programs, reflexology, touch therapy to help expel the body toxins. It's like you're really taking on the full mind, body, spirit connection approach within this nonprofit. I mean, kind of elaborate on why you wanted to focus on those primarily things as far as yoga and meditation, the nutrition counseling, the art therapy, and the reflexology. And of course, sprinkling in a little bit of touch of AI to kind of help bring things up to times, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it does. It absolutely does. Because as we know, AI, artificial intelligence, is going to affect all of us in every industry,
Yep.
and we should keep that in focus as well. But I think what I saw in practice and what I experienced as a mother of children who were affected by mental health conditions was that, and I'm seeing this everywhere. Um, the solutions, the psychotropic medications and solutions that are a must for helping people who find themselves in this position also have really poor side effects, or side effects that have poor health outcomes. And so the effort of these holistic modalities and therapies is
Yeah.
to counteract the side effects in a positive way, right?
Yes.
Um, and so when you talk about nutrition, you talk about fitness, which is what you do, you bring,
Right.
that is essential because many of these medicines cause unnatural weight gain that no matter how much you do, it's causing this weight gain. And it's something that has to be counteracted, and you need to counsel people who are going through it on, okay, you can have a great body, but then the mind's not together. So we have to balance these two things,
Without a
right?
doubt.
We have to balance these two things. But I hear you, as a person affected by this, loud and clear, that you don't like what these psychotropic medications are doing to your body. And we know that it has bad health effects because we know what diabetes does. You know, we know all of these things. We know what weight gain does. It's that there are data that bore this out, right? That make this very plain. So that's why I came up with those things. Meditation and the mind, that Calm is an app that you can use, and I know that my
Yeah.
children have used the app to help them go to sleep, because we also have seen that sleep is a major indicator of whether or not you're going to have some manifestations of mental health conditions, stress,
Right.
and other factors. That's the first danger sign. If you're not getting sleep, then that's not a good thing. It's going to fire, some bad mental effects if you
Yeah.
don't get control of it, right?
Without a
And
doubt.
you want to nip it in the bud. And you want to nip it in the bud. And so there are so many things that we don't know about how the human mind works.
Mm-mm.
It almost makes me angry with smart people and neuroscientists, because I say, how can we have artificial intelligence and we haven't solved issues with the mind that are growing. Serious, think about that. That a growing population is affected by.
No, it's like we're taking a shortcut in that avenue without a doubt. It's like
Exactly. That's interesting that you say a shortcut. That's exactly what seems to be happening. They're taking, okay, we can't figure this out. Or if we, and this is the other thing. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but you have to ask yourself, uh, maybe they figured it out, but we built such a great industry with psychotropic medications that everybody's getting paid from this industry of mental health condition that we don't really want to find a cure, that we really don't want people to get better.
I think you're onto something with that, Lisa. I think that's exactly what it is. I feel like the answer's already been there. It's just stored away somewhere in the back where like you got to go through like 3 different doors and 3 different safes and everything just so you can get the official answer.
Right.
Because again,
It's
like
reserved for only some people, right?
exactly,
Is it
you have to be
reserved
a
for some
chosen
people?
one.
Why does Medicaid not pay for other therapies? And
It's very good.
only and only that they're only the and again, I'm not against psychotropic drugs. I think they've done great things for people, but at the same time, it's like every solution stops when you're going to actually benefit people.
And to add to everything you just said, Lisa, it's kind of like this. It's like when it comes to just prescription drugs, even the ones like the controlled substances and all that stuff,
That too.
it's like all it really is basically people don't realize that prescriptions are basically herbs dipped in a bunch of powdered chemicals and sprayed with a bunch of more chemicals and processed through laboratories to where it's like, oh, this is a medication, it will do wonders, but realistically it's still the herb, which is why it hasn't changed. Like we're still, it's like the holistic approach has just been watered down with a bunch of chemicals. Basically, you just got to remove all the chemicals and take it back to the actual root, which is of course holistic living, healthier living with a holistic approach. And you touched on pretty much everything that I do within holistic personal training, the movement aspect, the breathing aspect, the nutrition, the thinking, using your mind, and most importantly, just the exercise, the sleep, and everything. It's like it all comes together as one because, again, you touched on the importance of just sleep alone because we're technically supposed to be in bed by 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. Technically, that way we can give the body enough time to go through the necessary repairs from a physical standpoint, which is usually between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., which most people don't realize. And from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., that's where the psychogenetic repairs take place within the mind, prepares you for the next day to where your body clock wakes up from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., aka those cortisol levels go up, and the body's saying, oh, it's morning, the sun's rising up, time to get up and start the day. But there's so much where you break it all down. I mean, you could break this down in the series literally as far as all the things that I said, but to kind of simplify it for those who are listening to the HFWB podcast series, it just comes down to basically a yin and yang factor as far as balancing out the masculine and feminine energies that the universe offers us. And that's right. Just through movement, breathing, thinking, nutrition, hydration, and sleep. That's all it boils down to at the end of the day. And in return, when you master all those things, I feel like you'll have a little bit more control of not only just your physical health, but your mental health, but also to add on to this, your emotional health and your spiritual health. You'll have all 4 corners attacked. But speaking of that, for someone who's listening to this HFWB podcast series, as far as who may be going through as far as any kind of mental illness or mental disorders, because it's a real thing more than ever, and people have been coming out and being more open and more vulnerable.
And I love that.
Basically just to express themselves about it. It's beautiful to see because
it is. I love it.
You can't hold it all in. You have to let it all out. It's like my parents used to always tell me whenever I would try to hold my tears in from crying, don't hold it in. You're only hurting yourself more. Just let it out. You don't feel Don't feel like you're weak whenever you're crying,
That's
letting your
right.
emotions out and stuff like that. For the person who's listening to this and who may be having a hard time doing exactly that, what would you tell that person right now as far as a key piece of advice, Lisa?
Um, I think I would just tell them that something I tell my daughter. Number one, always remember that mental illness is what you have. It is not who you are.
I like that. Strong statement.
And that's why it is important for you and the people around you to recognize that. And when you and they recognize it, then you can work as a team
Mm-hmm.
to correct it,
Mm-hmm.
to make it better,
Okay.
right? To make it better. And to really almost go into know what you need personally. You know, when they talk about know thyself, you know, that's a common term people use, know thyself.
Yep.
It is incredibly important for everyone, and it's particularly if you're having mental health issues, because you know who you are, and you know, but you also know what's happening in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
My son, who committed vehicular suicide, said to me right before he died, when he was in the hospital, he said, "Mom, I can see outside myself."
Mm.
You could see what he was doing that was weird, and
He was
you
he was
know,
astro projecting. That's what that's
yes,
called.
definitely.
A lot of people don't know about that. For those who are listening to the HFWB podcast series, Google it. It's a real term, astro projecting. And also, I apologize about the loss, by the way, but please continue, Lisa.
Yeah, but I mean that's basically it. And that's thanks for sharing that term too as well. But I think I mean it sounds like you know what he may have been seeing. I mean he was a very spiritual child, and
Oh yeah,
he was a leader in the environmental movement. That
love
was his
that.
thing,
I love that.
and he had scholarships named after him.
We need more people like that who take on the environmental task force.
Exactly,
Oh,
exactly. And so but he was a very spiritual child and or young man. He grew into a young man, and he was on a PBS show with education because of the work he was doing as a young leader in the environmental movement, and they went to him with a mic, and I think he was starting, excuse me, to have these, you know, the thoughts, mental health thoughts or whatever come in, and but when he did speak, it was always profound, and so he just simply said, you know, told the I guess the anchor. Um, you're either going to be part of the problem or part of the solution.
mm-hmm. Exactly. I love that.
And so that's a riff also on, you know, you're going to be a giver or you're going to be a taker. Like, are you going to be part of the problem or part of the solution? And so I think to go back to your original question about what would I tell someone, I would say one, understand that you're not alone. Understand that there are people who love you and you're not a burden on them. All
Mm-hmm.
right.
Yeah.
That they are in this with you. And if they're not, God's going to find somebody else who will be in it with you.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't give up hope.
Yep. Because
And I think that's what happens, particularly with I'm very concerned about the numbers and the emotional well-being of Black males in the country, because the unfortunately the negative side of technology is that it projects things that may not always be real.
Oh yeah.
right? And it projects things that influence your emotional well-being in ways that are not productive, so that your thoughts are racing about what manhood means, and what your responsibilities are, and how you're regarded
Uh-huh.
in society, right?
Yeah.
And so I can't speak for Black men or males, but I'm just basing this on what I see online.
Mm-hmm.
No, I base it on what I see online. I base it on what I hear other fora talking to Black males about emotional intelligence and about stress, right? And about the messaging that is negative, that sometimes we control and sometimes we can't control.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it doesn't just affect just Black males. I mean, just the whole social media piece, right? It's like unregulated broadcasting is the way I look at it.
It's funny. It's funny you
So
say
they could
that.
be doing good thing. We're on unregulated broadcasting, but we're doing good. We're doing good stuff. We're talking about good stuff. Not everybody is.
Yeah.
And
So
so who's drawn? Are they going to be drawn to what we're talking about? Are they gonna be drawn to some other influencers? And I'll leave it at that. I'm not
no,
gonna name names.
no, it's a very great place to leave it at. It just comes down to, hey, the law of attraction, like
The law of
attracts,
attraction, right?
the likes, like attracts like, whether it's good or bad. And
Right,
hopefully
exactly.
those who gravitate towards this will basically be a positive influence versus negative influence,
Right.
because like attracts like. And I have a feeling with what we're talking about, it's something powerful and impactful. And I feel like those who manifest off of that energy are going to be drawn towards this absolute
Right.
conversation we're having. I could already see it, and I can have a good sense of that's definitely going to be the case. But overall, Lisa, we're actually at the point where I'm going to ask you a list of questions that I ask everybody who comes onto my podcast. That way, the audience can, of course, get to know Lisa Bass Cooper a whole lot more, without a doubt. First question is simple. What's the first thing you do or think of every single day that you wake up?
My agenda, my priorities, my daughter's wellness.
Mm. The to-do list, family, and of course being grateful for all of those things, and then just getting right to it.
Right.
No better way to put it, actually, Lisa. Simple and straightforward and right to it, without a doubt. With health, fitness, wealth, business, basically the whole concept is off the term health is wealth, right? Because you can't have
Right.
one
Yeah.
without the other, kind of two sides of the coin type of thing. In your own personal definition, Lisa, what is health and wealth to you?
Health and wealth to me is symbiotic. You can't have one without the other.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I agree with that.
Just to give you a quick case in point, if, for instance, your dental health, if you neglect your dental health, then you won't be able to eat certain nutritious foods that will give you longevity. Let's put it that way. You won't be able to develop any kind of persona that we're developing, that we have, because unless you have the money to get dental implants, right, the credibility is going to go downward if you're on with a couple of missing teeth. I'm sorry, it just is. Let's just be real.
No, that's what the Health, Fitness, Wealth, Business podcast series is
So
all about.
that's what I'm saying. One thing feeds on the other.
Yeah, you can't have one without the other because
Cannot have one without the
I
other.
tell people this all the time, Lisa. It's like we get so caught up in our careers, our money, our safety, our security. Do you ever stop and think about your health for a minute? Because if your health isn't even in order, you could forget about all of those things I can mention because unfortunately, since we're being real about it, you're basically going to be 6 feet under if you don't take your health more seriously. Let's
That's right.
just call it like you said, how that is, without a doubt. And it's like, it's again, it's like a give or take type of thing. You got to give time towards healthier living and, of course, bettering your overall self so you can take advantage of course, longer periods of life without a doubt. It just pretty much that's all there is to it when it comes to that. And it's like it's a give and take factor type of thing again. And overall, Lisa, it's like when it comes to like your sense of like community, so to speak, what defines a community to you?
I think communication really defines a community to me because I don't think you can have community without communication.
This is true. Yes. You got to have a sense of communication because that's how you're able to build those bridges. It's like seeking to understand, then to understood. It's like, hey, I respect you. I see where you're coming from. Now we can form a relationship to where we can now be on the same page to where it's like if we share like a common goal or, for instance, a common enemy, we'll be on the same page based off of that original standpoint of communication. It's perfectly well said. I like that. But now we're going to transition into a little bit of something I like to call either or, where I'll ask you which one you would pick as far as out of one or the other. My
Okay.
first one is this, Lisa. Would you rather pick loyalty or respect?
Mm, these are hard questions. Um, hmm.
Because they kind of go hand in hand. To
They
be,
do. They do.
it's just a matter if you had to choose one, would you choose loyalty or respect?
I think I choose respect.
Okay.
At the end of the day, I think I choose respect
All right.
um, because for me, loyalty is fine. But if I don't have respect, I can get over if you're not loyal. I mean, if I have respect, I put it this way. If I had respect, I could get over if a person isn't loyal for one reason or another, you know.
No.
But I think respect is non-negotiable.
Oh yeah. That's non-negotiable without a doubt because it's like I always like to say this all the time, Lisa. You don't have to love me or hate me, but you will respect me. That's
Right. I've heard that too. I've heard
that's
that.
kind of like one of my favorite all-time sayings. I mean,
Yeah,
you don't have to love me, you don't even have to hate me, but you're gonna respect me at the end of the
that's
day
right.
off of what I bring to the table and my
That's right.
overall passion and etc. Would you rather live in space or live in the ocean, Lisa?
Would I rather live in space or the ocean?
Yes, if you had
Hmm.
to choose.
I think I would be a person to live in space.
Would you would you rather be famous and poor or anonymous and rich?
I'd rather be famous and poor.
Would you rather have unlimited free meals at your favorite restaurant or unlimited first class tickets?
Oh yeah, that's easy for me. I'd rather have first class tickets. I like to be on the move,
I love it. I love it. Would you rather dance to every song or sing to every song?
and I would rather dance to every song than sing every song.
Now, picture this scenario, Lisa. You're on an island, trapped on an island, but you have the option to live to five of your favorite music artists. It don't matter what genre it is, it could be their whole entire catalog of music. Who would those five music artists be?
Oh, I love this question. So top of my list is Al Jarreau.
I love Al
Um,
Jarreau. People don't know about him. His music is incredible.
it is. Then I would have to bring Aretha along,
Mm, okay.
Aretha Franklin. Um, I would also um, have to say Quincy Jones.
Okay. So Al
Um,
Jarreau, Aretha Franklin, and Quincy Jones.
Quincy
That's
Jones.
very versatile. Okay. We got two
Mhm.
more.
Um, and um, oh boy, Patti LaBelle,
That's
because
not
I've met Patti LaBelle.
that's not a bad choice. That really
Yeah.
isn't. And now
Uh,
we have one more to fit that.
and then we have one more. Hmm. Oh, I guess I'm going way back now, but um, Sammy Davis Jr. He just was very, very special.
Hmm, that's that is not too bad. That's definitely a playlist that'll definitely hit the soul without a doubt. And whoever gets you off of that hypothetical speaking deserted island, they're going to definitely feel it within the soul without a doubt with that playlist. I'll say that. But overall, Lisa, what is your favorite go-to meal?
My favorite go-to meal?
Yes.
Um, hmm. I would say shrimp and grits.
Classic. You gotta love shrimp and grits.
Yeah,
That's something for the soul right there. You
it
gotta love
is.
it. Now you did mention, Lisa, you like to be on the move, so this is going to be an interesting question. I feel like, what is the favorite place that you have traveled to thus far, and where's a place that you haven't been to yet that you would like to travel to?
So the favorite place thus far would probably be Japan,
Oh
Tokyo,
wow,
Tokyo, Japan. And I would love to go to um, the French Riviera.
wow,
Mhm.
that is very unique. Describe your overall experience. How was it like in Tokyo, Japan? Because that's one of my favorite cities in the world that I would love to visit myself. What would you be your overall experience?
Well, I was there a long time ago, but I think what struck me the most was how safe I felt. It was like, I don't think when you grow up in this country, um, where safety can be an issue, no matter who you are,
Oh yeah,
and you're in another environment where it just isn't a factor short of an earthquake. Now they do have some natural disasters,
oh yeah, without a doubt.
but not the freedom of not being concerned
Hmm.
with your personal safety is like no other experience that I've had. And it made me recognize how much that is a factor in how we're wired as Americans.
Yeah, that if there's one thing about Japan, they say Japan is like 5, 10 years ahead of America alone when it just comes to technology. So that just goes to show you how advanced they are, and at the same time, why you feel so safe whenever you did go to Tokyo that one long time ago, because they were so ahead of the game to where it's like safety wasn't even an issue for them. But, and that just lets me know that I need to go to Tokyo, Japan one day. But first, 2024 bucket list item, getting a passport, working on it. It's coming. I'm
Ooh, definitely
manifesting
need to
it.
do
I'm
that.
manifesting it without a doubt. Now, whenever you're not doing all the things that you're doing on a regular basis, Lisa, because I know you're super busy at times, what are some of your favorite hobbies that you like to do that many people may not know you like to do?
Well, I guess my main hobby would be photography.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, I have a blog post on Medium that speaks to photography to really tell a story about, the first, Maryland's first mental health hospital for African Americans
Okay.
um, in the early 1900s. And it's an interesting story. And it's about Black mental. It's called Black Mental Health: Time to Reset. And I also have put it on our new website. But yeah, the photography is a hobby that I share with my brother, who was not an early photographer as I was, but now is really into digital photography. So we trade art and photographs on Flickr, and it's just a nice outlet for me. I love a great photograph.
It's funny because it speaks to kind of like you the whole give and take and just letting your voice be heard in a way, Lisa, because they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, and it's like you're letting your words be expressed through the formats of the portraits and the pictures that you take within, of course, the digital photography and everything. And it's kind of funny how it all connects and it's all lines, and it's kind of like a full circle moment for yourself without a
Yeah, it
doubt.
is.
I love it. My last question for you, Lisa, before we wrap everything up is quite interesting. If you had the opportunity, right, to go back in time and talk to yourself, say 10 years ago, what would you tell yourself? And at the same time, Lisa, based on your current journey you're on, your current path you're on, where do you see yourself? Where do you see holistic homes and everything within the next 10 years?
Well, I think 10 years earlier, I might have started this sooner, right? I might have started this sooner and gotten to this point. But things take time. You have personal evolution as well, right? And I think in terms of taking holistic homes forward in the next 10 years, um, I see my vision is to have homes in as many um, predominantly Black communities across this country as we can, even if it's one house with our programming. Then it's sort of our efforts will not have been in vain, right? That's my big vision. My short vision is, and now I'm going to bring your music question back in. And so the short vision is I'm inspired by a song by Aretha Franklin that says, "Gotta find me an angel."
I
Beautiful song. And
love
the
that.
song is about a woman who wants to find that man who is an angel.
Mm,
And that's gonna make her life better.
okay.
Well, in my rendition of the song, the angel that I'm looking for is that major donor who's gonna somehow see this podcast and decide they're going to be an angel for holistic homes.
Mm,
And they're going to give us our first house.
okay.
And
Okay.
then we're going to fly from there.
Mm. We're manifesting some things into existence. I
That's
like
right.
that. I love how that was well put together. As a matter of fact, and for anyone who's listening to the HFWB podcast series, they need to rewind that and understand that that is pretty much the overall mission of Holistic Homes and what they're trying to accomplish as far as not only with just Lisa but her whole entire board of directors. So let that sink in just for a moment. We just trying to find ourselves our own angel to benefit us to our own advantage, just like Aretha Franklin sung about oh so long ago. God rest her soul, without a doubt. But yeah, Lisa, let people know how they can contact you, how they can get in touch with Holistic Homes, how they can donate to, of course, support the cause. This is your time to put the message out,
And
Lisa.
and let me say this. I did say major donors, yes, because we need a home. But you know what? I want to make the point that we started this with a campaign of the 4 out of 5 campaign. So if the statistics tell us that, out of 5 people has a mental health condition, let us be the 4 out of 5 that help their lives improve with that condition.
Right.
And we don't, and so that's why I said we can start with a small amount. We can start with $4.
Mm-hmm.
And we can do whether you want to make it recurring or you want to make it one time. but we can make a statement with a small amount of money. And guess what? I think one angel with a lot of money is just as valuable as thousands of angels with a little bit of money. And so I'm looking for angels who can give $4 one time, $4 every month, or more, multiples of $4. But it doesn't matter, because guess what? There is power in numbers.
Mm-hmm.
There is power in our numbers as a people. We need to exert it.
All it takes is $1, $10, $100, whatever it may be. Just all it takes is just taking that first step. How can they do that? What is the website?
And so they can do that with going to our website, clicking on the donate button. It's very simple. We have Give Butter as our partner, and you can give to the 4 out of 5 campaign, as I said, with as little as $4. And our website, again, is holistichomesforus.org.
Well said, Lisa. Well said. Great stuff. And yeah, I mean, hopefully we can just continue to raise awareness on mental wellness and just overall disease and disorders that come with it, and just overall continue to provide the information, continue to provide the resources to where we can just make the world a better place and have mental health cut down to like a very limited to none size. One day at a time, one step at a time. We've come a long way, Lisa, but there's still so much more that needs to be done. So we just got to keep our foot on the gas pedal and just keep going, without a doubt. And with that being said, Lisa, I just thank you for just taking time out of your busy schedule just to bless us with an appearance on the Health, Fitness, Wealth, Business podcast series. And I will say this, you definitely got a supporter in me for holistic.
I appreciate that.
And definitely there will be a donation coming soon in regards to that. And even if it's just a few dollars, every little bit counts to make a difference. It does. And you definitely got a supporter from Health, Fitness, Wealth, Business to Holistic Homes for us, because we are simply doing it for us. Catch that. But overall, thank you again, Lisa, for just taking time out of your day for being on the HFWB podcast series. I truly appreciate it, my friend. It was long overdue.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and kudos to you for everything you're doing. Keep it going.
I appreciate that, Lisa. With that being said, this is yours truly, Clifton Pope, from the Health, Fitness, Wealth, Business podcast series, encouraging everybody to stay healthy, wealthy, and blessed. And until next time, peace, love, and positive vibrations, y'all.